All right, so we're going to talk about Microsoft Graph Explorer. First, we'll start by introducing ourselves. So I'll let Vivian go first.
Thank you for that, Kristen, and thank you so much, Sebastian, for the invitation. So my name is Vivian Adhiambo, and I'm one of the engineering managers in Microsoft Graph Developer Experience team, and I'm actually super thrilled to be joining this session. Actually, it's my first session, so I was actually caught by surprise yesterday when Sebastian, you tweeted about it. So I'm really, really excited about talking about Graph Explorer and also getting to meet everyone on the call. Back to you, Kristen.
All right, and I'm Kristen Womack. I'm the DevX PM lead, and I work really closely with Vivian. Our teams work together to build Graph Explorer. And yeah, this is also my first time on the call, I believe. I've attended but never presented. So I'm really excited to be here with Vivian and with Seb and all of you. Today, we're going to demo 3 things for you. We're going to talk about pagination, expand window, and resource explorer. We've kind of designed our demo so that the meat of everything is with Resource Explorer. And what we're really hoping is that we can talk a lot in chat or raise your hand and ask questions. But we want to leave time for community conversation about things that you really love about Graph Explorer, places there are friction, things that you think are needed in Graph Explorer, and we want to leave this as really like an open conversation. So first, we'll start with pagination. And so we're going to flip over to the demo. In Graph Explorer, if you were to select a sample query on the left, like get mail, something that has a long collection that you would need to go through several pages of results set, in the past, what would happen is you would have to, if you want to go ahead and click get my mail, then you'll see at the end of the query parameter, there's parameters that are added that show going through each of those. And right now, what we've added is if you click the link to follow this link, we've added odata.nextLink properties in the query response. And this is to improve the navigation experience when moving through large collections. So some queries will return multiple pages of data, and this is either due to server-side paging or use of the top query parameter. And this will specifically limit the page design. So this is really by design, but how you move through it now is a little bit more automated in Graph Explorer. So when the result set has multiple pages, now Graph returns the odata.nextLink property in the response, and that contains a URL to the next page. So this will save a lot of manual construction of graph queries on Graph Explorer by just clicking the link property right there. All right, and next we are going to show you the expand window. So when you're in Graph Explorer, there's, like an IDE or like most of our screens, there's many things happening at once. And so sometimes you need a little bit more space to do things. So we've given an option here where if, for example, you're on modify permissions, you can expand that window, and Vivian's going to pull it up and down a few times to show you that you get more space to use that real estate as you're working with either the request body, request headers, or modifying permissions, or the access token. So you can, give yourself a little bit more real estate and then close it back up when you're done, giving more flexibility. Okay, next we're going to talk about Resource Explorer, and this is really exciting. This is something that is like more of a sneak peek and a preview. It's not in production yet. But we're really excited about it. And I'm going to turn it over to Vivian to demo and tell you about this one.
Thank you so much, Kristen. So Resource Explorer, as Kristen has mentioned, is one of the latest features that we're trying to add to Graph Explorer. So what Resource Explorer entails, as the name suggests, of course, it's one of those functionalities that will provide the different Graph Explorer users with a different access in terms of resources of Graph API itself. So what I'm showcasing right now, as Kristen mentioned, is what we have on preview. And we are planning to have it as one of the tabs where the sample queries are. So when you look at this, the left side of the Graph Explorer window, you can see the resources part, and then it's going to be something like a tree like this. So I know a lot of people may be asking, so why Resource Explorer, right? So currently on Graph Explorer, in terms of when it comes to accessing the different queries on Graph itself, most of those queries are captured on the sample queries. But unfortunately, the sample queries only, as the name suggests, of course, only captures a snippet of a few of the Graph API queries itself. But with the Resource Explorer, a user is able to access all the different resources under Graph and also be able to select the different nodes. So in this particular case of Resource Explorer, what you're trying to achieve is showcase the different nodes under Graph API itself. And then once you are able to select the specific nodes you are interested in as a user, it will generate a request URL. So let's say if we selected, let me see if I can find a proper node. Let's see. Yeah, so basically, let's say you've selected one of the nodes here. The general idea is once you select this, it will auto-generate a query, which you'll be able to see on the run query text area, and then you should be able to run that particular query. So the other thing that you want to capture on Resource Explorer is once you select a specific node or query, you should be able to see the different API changes for that specific API. So I know that's something we currently don't have on Graph Explorer. So what we have in terms of the changelog only captures what has generally changed on Graph. But with Resource Explorer, to some extent, you will be able to access what has specifically changed for a specific API. And also, as you continue as a user to explore the different nodes under Resource Explorer, you should be able to see what are the different query options that map to this particular Graph API. So for example, you'll be able to see for this particular node, which maps to this specific API, these are the different query options that you can use to run the query. So I believe we can take questions in terms of what we've just presented so far. So this is something we are planning to roll out the Resource Explorer at least within the next 2 or 3 months. And I hope everyone will be really, really excited and be able to see the value in terms of being able to access all the different resources on Graph using Graph Explorer.
Kristen and Vivian, we have a question from Brian, which I think is a great question. Where can people leave feedback or even feature requests or any of that for Graph Explorer today?
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah. So currently, we track all the issues, feature requests, bugs on the Graph Explorer GitHub repo. Actually, let me just share the link shortly on this chat. The other option, let me just share my screen. The other option is to log into Graph Explorer itself and then click on these 3 dots and then click report an issue. So when you click report an issue, it will take you directly to Graph Explorer. Then you have this template over here, report a bug or a feature request. And of course, we definitely do take this seriously in terms of being able to triage all the issues that have been created on Graph Explorer repo.
And then there's one more area where you can submit feedback in Graph Explorer. There's a submit feedback button, and that is more of general feedback for the product, and you're able to rate the Graph Explorer experience. And as a team, we go through these one by one and we read every single one of them. And what we try to do is also use some tactics for grouping them together into themes so that we can see where the biggest struggles are and the biggest themes are with the tool, and then go after that as a whole theme set to kind of have a minesweeper effect and take care of like a whole problem that a lot of people in the community are seen. And so anytime you submit requests to us, it's almost like putting a vote in for us to work on it because we see these bigger clusters.
Yeah, the other thing I want to add is we try as much as possible also to label some of these tickets as good first issue so that whoever is interested in contributing to Graph Explorer repo, especially when you don't have, let's say, much time, but you really, really want to contribute to Graph Explorer, you could just come to Graph Explorer and filter by good first issue and see some of the tickets we have in that space and just get started right into it.
Oh, I see one other question. When is Graph API beta going to the next stage? Can we use beta API endpoint for production use? So we put newer things onto beta, and then V1 is sort of our feature that is production ready. You can trust it, you can build on it, and you have the option to toggle between the two when you're building and trying new features. So there will always be a beta endpoint.
We have two other questions that I think are super interesting for Graph Explorer. First one is it possible to set up variables or parameter in Graph Explorer like we can do in Postman today? A channel ID, a user ID, or whatsoever, so we can reuse it. Is that something that is considered for Graph Explorer?
Is that? Oh, go ahead, Kristen.
Yeah, and then to save those parameters, so like API key or anything that might make using your collection go even faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something we talk about and think about a lot, is like, what is the value of Graph Explorer and where do the edges of Graph Explorer meet the edges of Postman? Because there are some reasons and some preferences in using each of the tools for different things. And so that's something that, yeah, we are thinking about and we do talk about. Vivian, were you going to add to that as well?
Yes. So as part of adding into Resource Explorer, in terms of the work we are doing in Resource Explorer, once a user is able to select the different nodes that can turn into different API queries, one of the things we are trying to work on is the capability to be able to export these queries into a Postman collection or be able to just save them and use them for future use.
That is awesome. I think that answers the question here. And the last one that we have is the Graph Explorer a PWA, a progressive web app that could be installed locally, like Postman, you can use it on the browser or locally. Is Graph Explorer right now a PWA, or is there any plans on making it a PWA in the future?
Right now, it's a single page app, and we don't have any near-term plans to make it a PWA.
Awesome. Well, I don't see any other question, but we're coming at time anyway. So I wanted to thank you so much for your time today, Kristen and Vivian. And feel free, everybody in the community, to continue providing the feedback on the chat. Vivian, Kristen, myself, a bunch of people will be looking at it and bringing it back to the team to make sure that we have the best Graph Explorer possible. The Graph Explorer makes my work like so much easier that it's definitely something that I want to be able to see improvements, and we're going to follow these improvements to Kristen, Vivian, and our new PM that actually started a couple of days ago specifically for Graph Explorer. Awesome. Well, Kristen, Vivian, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Seb.
Thank you too, Sebastian.